Welcome to Kinship Cafe. I am your host, Jim Jones, and today I am joined with Angus Wilson.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. And today we have a fun topic. We're going to be talking about well-being for artists. Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear where you're going with this because I know you've got some really interesting projects you're working on.
Yeah.
But before we do that, would you like to start us off with a song?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Right on.
Yeah.
Joshua Tree, what have you done to me? Joshua Tree, say what have you done to me? No point looking for a rainbow, feel the pain go. What have you done to me? Joshua Tree, baby, will you marry me? Joshua Tree, baby, will you marry me? Darling, don't say no, I feel the pain go. What have you done to me? Inside, but the weather gets warmer. Baby, it's cold inside, but the weather gets warmer. Baby, it's cold inside, but the weather gets warmer. Girl, what have you done to me? Joshua's son, what planet are we living on? Joshua Tree, what planet would you have me be on? And then I'm gone. Joshua Tree, let me be.
Angus, that was just beautiful. Is this an original song?
Yeah, original. One of the newer songs that has come out of the last few months of kind of writing and stuff, but just a fun kind of metaphor. I know people can kind of decide what it is to them, but the metaphor of Joshua Tree and this sort of beautiful landscape and it's kind of stolen your heart. And what have you done to me? Baby, would you marry me?
So Joshua Tree is just kind of a stand-in for wherever somebody wants to take the song.
Yeah. A lot of my stuff that I write is pretty metaphoric, and even if it sounds like it's pointed towards a certain topic, it can be, I think, translated in a lot of different ways for people's stories. It's mostly about the energy that it evokes, and a little bit less about the actual story or the actual lyrics. Usually the lyrics have more meaning to myself than they do to somebody else, but you can still kind of paint that picture and that story of what it's telling.
Yeah. Well, I think that people probably do that with a lot of music anyway, because I know, like, I don't even listen to music in languages that I don't know, just because there's something about it that connects. Definitely. But yeah, music it's just one of those powerful things that reaches in at that subconscious level almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I say often that, like, music, if you really think about it, music was used before language was used. We were using rocks and sticks and rhythms and that sort of thing to tell stories and relate emotions before we even started speaking words. So there's an element of music that is communication. It's just very much its own language. That's why, like, you're sitting in the crowd at a big show, like, somebody that's well known or just has a gift for spreading that energy. And you can be in a crowd of 20,000 people, or you can be in a little cafe of 10. And if it's being communicated properly and authentically, then every single person in that room is enrolled in that same energy that even was present when the song was being written, when it was being birthed. And just the continued communication of that, I think, just continues to enroll people in the story.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that on the planet.
So, speaking of writing, how do you go about writing songs?
Yeah, I write in a lot of different environments. Whether it's for another artist or with another artist, or just for myself. Whether it's instrumental or lyric driven. Yeah. When it comes to, like, my sort of original music, I let the instruments drive it for the most part. And I get that question a lot. And I've also asked that question a lot. I've really kind of studied what the process of some of the greatest writers, that I admire and look up to, have been. And a lot of them, they'll feel the rhythm of something happening in the band, or search for that chord progression that's a little different on the guitar, and it usually translates. It usually translates to an energy that you're feeling in that moment. Maybe you didn't even know you're feeling it in that moment, but usually you start, once you're in that flow of creating with an instrument, you start really kind of drawing from whatever it is that's kind of going on inside of you. And that leads into starting to vocalize. And I call it just like gibberish singing for a little while. You just kind of vocalize and almost freestyle. Yeah. In the best way that's kind of conducive to the guitar that you're playing. And whether you write the whole song in that one sitting, which is pretty rare, as most people know, because you get more and more into songwriting, it's sometimes you got to come back to it. But if you can drop yourself back into that same place that you were at when you started writing the instrumentation, it usually is consistent in the lyrics with the energy that song is about. So it's not on purpose. It's kind of inadvertent, but it just, the songs that I write usually just come out of a jam, something that catches my ear, and then I kind of go with it.
That's interesting, because you definitely hear different approaches that people have, and hearing you talk about it, it sounds like that it's almost like whatever instrument you're using is kind of resonating some kind of feeling or emotion or energy that you're experiencing, and that's taking the lead rather than I've got this idea for lyrics and then trying to figure out music. Yeah. Interesting.
I've been pretty committed to using music as a communication tool for myself. There are lots of different ways to write songs, and I won't step on any of them. But I've always found it difficult to write for a certain topic, to sit down in a group and write a summer hit, or something like that, or write a love song, or write a breakup song, or whatever. I find it very difficult to write to a certain topic. For me, it's a very meditative practice, and it almost requires solitude, to get really in there, and I just really commit myself to really not censoring anything that's coming out. If it's coming out, it's meant to be there. And so often we're writing a song and we start questioning it as it's being birthed. Is this too slow? Is this too deep? Is this too happy? Is this what my fans want to hear? We censor everything the second it starts being created. And I really, really am a stand for just letting that song come out the way that it's supposed to, and feeling into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's writing the song, which is the first step, and then there's rehearsing the song. And it's amazing how much a song develops in those key hours of rehearsal. I mean, over and over and over and over again. And, you know, for any musicians, like, even just playing that song on stage for 6 months, you look back and you're like, that song is so much better now that it's been played over and over and over again, so much more itself. So really committing to that root of why it was created in the first place is always that first intention that I set when I'm writing music.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess having a writing assignment would probably kill the moment for you.
It depends, you know.
Yeah.
It depends. I like I say, I don't knock it at all. It takes an incredible gift to be able to customize a song for a topic, or for you know, for a couple that are getting married or something like that.
Yeah,
you know? And I have done that stuff in the past. And I have huge respect for those that are able to do that. I write in a different way. I write very experiential and feeling based. So it's got to come from something inside of me. And I've been a little stubborn about that in my own career, for sure.
No, it's good. I mean, everybody's got the thing that makes them, right? And so you got to be true to that if it's going to be expressed. So I know that you also work with other musicians who are doing stuff in recording studio. Is that how does that differ when you're providing feedback or directing somebody else's song?
Yeah, I mean, I love my job. You know, I get to write and create music with so many different musicians and from different walks of life. And I mean, I'm from Canada, so it's usually different walks of life when I'm down here in California. But it's an experience thing, and it's funny. Like, the musicians that I've worked with, pretty much all of them have become just really close friends because of that real intimacy that's involved in understanding, from a producer standpoint, understanding what the musician is really trying to communicate, and what sounds, what style would best enhance whatever it is that they're trying to say through their music, which sometimes they don't have the same knowledge base or just experience of just playing with instruments and doing it. So yeah, it's a really honorable job that I get to do when it's done right. But it really does come down to, for me as a producer, is like, who are you as a musician? And let's try to break away from anything that you think you need to sound like, or think that you need to, it needs to be. And let's allow the creation to come in integrity to whatever is divinely flowing through the music. I believe that very much. There's always something trying to be communicated, and something deep within you. And again, if you try to censor that even in the production process and try to make it more poppy, or try to make it sound like this, you can sometimes do a disservice to the communication of it. So with the artists that I work with, I definitely, I don't try to make them see anything. I always see a rock star in front of me. You know, I see that potential for them if they're really open. And you know, one thing that I say often is that, you know, your unique fingerprint on the music that you create is the one thing that's different than any other music in the world. Yeah, it's that one thing that makes you a superstar. Is why you're unique. And so in a world where we're kind of told to sound the same, or look the same, or fit into this box, I think that leads us away from you know, the Bob Dylans and Janis Joplins and Hendrixes and Neil Youngs and Pettys of our time, because, you know, there's a uniqueness to each one of us as souls that, you know, what do you think Bob Dylan would have done if they tried to throw autotune on his voice? Right. It's all cyclical. It all comes back. So I just try to encourage wellness, you know, like empowerment in musicians, because I believe that's where they really perform, whether it's in the studio or on the stage.
And I think there's a lot of people who are starving for more of that authentic uniqueness because there's so much cookie cutter. I think there probably always has been. It's just that only the really good stuff survives, and so we forget about how much of the cookie cutter stuff has always been around. But as and listening to how you talk about working with your clients, and how you were talking about giving birth to songs, I was like, well, this has got to be something where you got to walk a fine line, because you're like talking to people about their children.
Definitely.
And it's like that can go wrong really easily. And so being able to manage that and help them to, find ways collaboratively to really just bring it to where it needs to go it's got to be really rewarding.
Super rewarding, hitting play on a mix that they haven't heard yet, and them just like, oh my gosh, it's, I've never heard myself sounding like that. You realize that you're kind of a part of making a dream come true, and humbly, that's a really, really amazing experience. Everybody's got their own style, and so I don't think that collaboration exists very well when ego is involved. And musicians, definitely producers, all have a bit of ego around what they do. That's why they do it. Almost the better you get, the more little ego you have, because there's a fine line between ego and confidence. And as a producer and creating music with somebody else, for me, it's been this really amazing learning process of completely dropping my ego. If I think something sounds amazing, well, I can't expect you to think it sounds amazing too. If it's not what is serving that process, then it's we start again from scratch, and that can be a little difficult sometimes, but it's actually a really important process, I think, in anything, of just releasing your ego or your need to kind of control something and allowing other collaboration in. It just kind of makes us, I think, better. Musicians, artists, people, everything.
Well, I really admire what you've got as far as the job there. I mean, as somebody who really likes music, I couldn't think of anything that would be more exciting to do. I have no idea how to do it, so I'm glad you do. But I definitely appreciate the work you're doing there. And we should probably do a shout out about where you do this.
Thank you. I mean, I came down almost exactly 3 years ago to California and started a company with a few really, really amazing partners, and definitely didn't start it on my own or anything like that. Had a lot of help and a lot of legs up, and people that saw the same vision that I did for the music industry. But we started a company called Music House, which is very much still in development. Right now the real goal for us is just to continue establishing a brand around what it looks like for independent musicians to be supported. What does that world look like if you no longer had to cut your hair, get a boob job, change your name, change your songs just so that they fit in this formulaic kind of marketed fast food of music kind of box? What if music was supported for just being exactly what it was? And that the thought of that gives me goosebumps. That culture can be reintroduced into music. When you come from Boston, you sound like you're a band from Boston. You don't have to sound like you're from LA to be successful, or Nashville or whatever. So I mean, very much Music House from a community engagement standpoint. We've been doing events. We've been partnering with different community initiatives, different little festivals. We record a lot of music, and more. We record meditation mixes and spoken word, and I've gotten to see a lot of cool different opportunities. But the biggest goal from a community engagement standpoint is just to really enliven a community of artists that we have here in North County, San Diego, Southern California overall, that maybe aren't necessarily seen by the mainstream market, but are as talented and have as much potential to be game-changing and release game-changing music and have a desire to touch people and impact people. It's not necessarily about changing people into celebrities. It's about understanding what that word even meant, and what the new superstar of this next age is, and how you roll with that. So I mean, that's a pretty rambly broad statement of what Music House is, but we record music, we put on events, very much a community engagement brand, and also we're in the tech space as well. So we're developing an app and have been working on that for about two years. The technology we're working with has been in development for 6 years, and we're just really kind of positioning it to be a tool for independent music and independent musicians to just have this hub and this network around what is my next step.
Yeah.
And integrating things like crypto and the social economy of Instagram, Facebook. What have these things done right, and how do we use them for independent musicians to be able to really thrive in a market that doesn't necessarily recognize a hit song anymore?
Yeah.
Or you getting your song on the radio is not necessarily going to make you a living anymore. It's really about what is that brand attached to? What is that song attached to? What is the brand that musician carries, the message that musician carries? And so it's really finding that message for an artist. And for us, it's aligning with artists that we believe carry a message of impact for the planet, for the people, and for purpose.
Yeah. Well, it's such a unique time in history with what's available technology-wise for how independent musicians and artists can do just having access to do something like what we're doing tonight is just crazy to think about, that, somebody can just get this crazy idea and I'm going to make this happen and just do it. Yeah. So you emphasize the SIC in music,
yes.
And that's an acronym for
Socially Intelligent Collective.
Socially Intelligent Collective. Yeah. So you've got kind of that social content to how you're thinking about this whole thing.
Definitely. I think that, on two sides, as a musician or as an artist of any type, if you are forced into some type of box that you need to be like, that you need to sound like, it actually really is, it's almost detrimental to somebody's spirit. You become a content creator for something outside of yourself. So I really do think that it impacts the world greatly to hear music that's really from the heart of another human being. That's how we have always shared our stories and taught each other lessons and related to each other.
Yeah. And
if it's too watered down, without saying anything about the industry and major labels or top 40, but if the music is too watered down and you don't have access to clean, organic music, people start to forget really what that feels like, and it actually does the opposite. It actually boosts the music that's out there that's really telling a story. So there's no pessimism in that. And on the other side, whether you play music or not, music is such a huge part of all of our lives. From the church that you go to the gym that you work out in, to the grocery store that you walk into, to the place that you had dinner, the cafe you had coffee. Weddings, everything, funerals. Music is such a huge part of our day-to-day life. And so whether we know it or not, it really is important for us to be aware of the messages, like mantras, something that is just heard over and over and over again. I always have this vision of Southern California is so known for health, and being conscious of what you're putting in your body and everything. I always have this vision of a soccer mom, driving her kids to school or her kids to soccer, and they're not allowed to drink Coca-Cola. They're not allowed to eat at McDonald's. They're stopping at Whole Foods to get some healthy food, and on the way they're listening to Nicki Minaj or something like that. And it's like there's this imbalance there where music, I believe, is part of our wellness system. And not knocking Nicki. She's a badass in her own right, but understanding the energy behind what we put in our bodies, and I think music is the same thing, is really the important first step to being well.
Yeah. Funny story along those lines. I have pretty adventurous taste, and they tend to wander into the minimalist electronic kind of stuff where people are like, is that even music?
Yeah, sure.
But I would share this stuff with my kids, and they would be like, Dad, that isn't even really music or whatever. And then all of a sudden it would show up as like a theme song to a movie or TV show or something. And all of a sudden they'd like it, and it's kind of funny to see that evolution. But I remember one time I was driving with my kids and I was listening to the song, and I thought it was kind of catchy, but I wasn't really paying attention to the words. And my son says, Dad, are you listening to what this song is talking about? And I listened, I was like, oh, You got me.
Yeah.
But it's easy to do that, to just, get caught up in the feeling, the emotion, the beat and rhythm, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you just don't really think that much about what's being said. But I agree, it all has an impact on who you are. What you surround yourself by and fill yourself with is going to have an impact on who you are as a person. You just can't help it. That's who we are as humans.
Yeah, I mean, we try. We don't. We put these nice little like love letters around our house. That they sell at Walmart or whatever that says love and like you're beautiful and everything. We don't fill our house with things that drain our energy. Pictures that drain our energy or messages. You're not pretty on your mirror. We don't do that. We actually try to lift ourselves up, understanding when the music that we're listening to is actually telling us that those messages subliminally.
Yeah.
It's not some conspiracy thing. It's like listening to those lyrics and what was the energy of the person when they wrote that? Why did they write that lyric? And is that something that you want to repeat in your system?
Yeah.
It's just like anything. It's just understanding what you're putting into your body and the energetics and how do you feel? How does your body really feel after you listen to that?
And I think there's a time and place for different things too. Like I sometimes will listen to Nine Inch Nails, right? Mm-hmm. And just like dive into it because at that moment it's hitting the right button, and other times it'll be something that's much more, peace, love, and happiness. Just, you know what I mean? It's like, so yeah. But I think part of it is being consciously aware of what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the key thing with everything is you don't want to be a mindless consumer of anything.
Yeah. Whenever I watch I don't watch them often, but every time I would watch like a horror movie or something like that, these scary parts or the gory parts, I would always end up kind of laughing, and I'd be actually just more impressed with the production value or unimpressed with the production value, and just knowing that everything is orchestrated, everything is trying to tell you something. This isn't reality necessarily. This is how we choose it to be. And some people watch a horror movie and they get terrified because they picture this reality around that circumstance. We're driving into Vegas with two of my musician friends. Adam Knight, I think he's going to be on the show at some point here as well. And we were going up to Vegas on our way to Boulder. We stopped in late for a quick stay, and we're listening to Drake on the way in. We're just like pounding beats and rhythms and stuff, and it was totally fitting for that atmosphere. But there's always that smirk on your face that's like, well, I mean, this isn't reality. It's not. This isn't exactly life. But it's music still has that power to just kind of get us up, get us moving. And I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. I saw Trent Reznor a couple times. And I'm a fan of just music in general. So many genres. I couldn't exaggerate that.
Yeah. My playlist in the car is, it might stop on John Denver or Marilyn Manson and anything in between. You never know. It's just kind of interesting. Which kind of brings back a little bit, you're talking about how with musicians, it's not about getting your song on the radio, which I wonder sometimes how much radio is actually making it, because so many people I think are like myself don't even listen hardly to radio anymore. It's all, just playlists that I've created and just run through my phone through the car or wherever. But the idea of how a listener connects with the artist was making me think a little bit about, like in business world, when you think about branding. Great book, Start With Why. I don't know if you've read that, but it's this idea that you need to know what you're about, and that's what you're promoting, because your customers are going to connect not with your particular product, but what your company is about. And I think that's kind of a similar thing then with musicians. Who am I? And people connect with that part of it, and the music just kind of goes with it.
Yeah, I've always said this, and I understood very, very early on that if I really wanted to make music for a living, whatever that means, I was going to have to be quite entrepreneurial about it. Understanding at that time, understanding that music was kind of a product that you're selling, and that you first need to understand your product in and out. You need to understand everything about that product that you have. And then secondly, understand your market. Understand who that product is going to be best suited towards, who your market is, so that you can focus and pinpoint on those areas. Now it's a little different. As I said, it's not that song is necessarily your product. It's I just kind of came upon this thought in the conversation the other day, that the song now is the advertisement
for the artist,
for the product. The product is you.
Yeah.
That song is what draws a listener, draws a true fan into, oh, I love that message, or I love that voice, or I love that beat, or whatever. Who is this?
Yeah.
And if you can have some type of brand, some type of message that person resonates as well, your song, your albums, your videos really become these commercials sort of displaying the planet, looking for people who are really going to engage with your product, which is you as an influencer.
Yeah, yeah. And it's true. I mean, at least for me, I hear a song and the first thing I'm thinking is, who is this? Yeah. If I like it, and I go to find out who that person is. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I was just at a show the other night, and one of our local bands was playing Dragon Tree. Okay. Cool. And the lead gal, Rhythm Rose Turner, was talking about who she was promoting as the Queen of Funk, and it was Betty Davis, which I had not heard of before for some reason, right? and I think she said she was married to Miles Davis. Yeah. Of course, Betty Davis, I'm thinking the actress. And so I went and I listened to it. I'm like, wow, this is really good. And the stuff that she brought to it about who that person was and why she was doing it, it's just like you're saying, it's the artist is the brand, is the thing that people are going to connect with.
Yeah, it's changed so much, and I think in a good way. I'm very much an optimist on the planet.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing things shift and change a lot quicker than we might have thought that they would. And obviously music and art in general is a huge tool for that. What I see happening is that because there's been this long period of time where it's all been about that hit single, and it doesn't matter who's on it doesn't matter who's playing it doesn't matter if you're playing the instruments. This goes back a long time.
Yeah.
As long as the song is sticky and catchy, you're gonna be a millionaire. Kid, you're saved. It's not that way anymore because of the density of the population of musicians. Like, every high school kid and their dog can buy a computer and start making actually good music. And so it becomes more and more important to be authentic to something, to be a little bit different, a little bit unique.
Yeah. To
have some type of message that you stand behind, or have an idea of the brand and of the market that you're going for. Because everybody is searching for everybody. Yep. There's not too many musicians that are searching for those pinpointed, visualized people that are going to resonate with their music. And the fact is, you don't need 12 million fans to be successful. You just need to be able to engage with the ones that really do like your music and your brand, and expand on that market. I would always picture, if you're playing a room of 300 people, well, don't worry about the 300. Because there's going to be 10 people at the merch booth, and those are the people. Let's turn that 10 into 50. Not the 300 into 600, because that's just 600 people that kind of like your stuff, kind of also here to be, just have a drink with their friend, their girlfriend dragged them out or whatever. Focus on the people that really come up and are like, you guys made me cry on that encore. How do I get involved? How do I follow you? And then get in touch with them the next day.
Yeah.
Thank them for being there. Create a personal relationship. I know you know Darren Greatly, very well, but that's one thing that they do really, really well, is they really connect with the people that they create these experiences around. And I do think that is the new industry of music and success model for independent musicians, at least. Yeah,
they're definitely about the community.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about music. Would you like to share another song with us?
Yeah, sure. I'll do one that I haven't actually done very often before. So
really?
This will be, I think, the first time I've played this one in any type of real public setting.
Oh, nice.
Call me out into the misty morning, and I'll stop running round. Pull the curtain and we watch that sunlight move across the ground, move across the ground. You can have me where you want me, you can have me anywhere that you like. So certain that you watch me sometimes, and I'll stop running around. I won't let it down. You find me in the sunlight, so all night I'm begging for our lives crazy. Alright, green eyes in the morning, sunlight in her hair. I wasn't ready for you, girl, then you were there. Oh, the moment when you walked by, I was away, clinging to the table. You sat in that chair. Oh, I was waiting for you there. Well, oh, I've been searching, crawling out of those things from long ago. And I know that you've been searching too, girl, from those letters you wrote. I won't let it down, I won't let it down. You find me in the sunlight, so all night I'm begging for our lives crazy. But alright, green eyes in the morning, sunlight in her hair. I was ready for you, girl, then you were there. Oh, the moment when you walked by, I was away, clinging to the table. You sat in that chair. Oh, I was waiting for you there. I was waiting for you there.
Well, I'm glad you chose to share that with us tonight.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. What is the song called?
It's called Green Eyes. Yeah, and a lot of metaphor in there as always, but that one's definitely a little bit more pointed and just kind of a beautiful imagery of something I think we've all experienced. Kind of falling in love and waking up beside somebody that you consider a partner or a best friend or anything like that, and the magic that I can picture the color as I sing it, and was definitely feeling that when I was writing it. So definitely more of an intimate one, kind of a slower one. And I'm actually I played in a rock band for so long, with my good brothers, and one of them my actual brother Brian, but some of my best friends in the world that we played in this band with, and it created this story in me that, like, I can't play slow stuff. Like I can't come to these boys with a sappy love song, and I've always loved writing from the heart, and slower, even darker stuff, so I'm relearning how to just really fully express some of those like slower ones, And I still love music with a rhythm and a groove to it and a beat to it, so I'll never lose that. But definitely stepping a bit out of my comfort zone and playing a little bit more slow, finger picky, folky kind of stuff as well.
Nice.
Again, for the first time in a long time.
So, kind of brings us back to our opening theme, talking about well-being for artists. I sense that this has something to do with that too, about having more of that wholeness. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Art is a funny thing. Music is a funny thing. Real art is a dedication to communicating something. Music is a dedication to communicating something. And man, it takes a long time to figure your voice out, to learn how to play that piano, to learn how to communicate fluently. I say often that it's like another language. Anybody can learn how to say hello and goodbye in any language, but to communicate fluently in that language is very often a lifetime of study. And I see music as the same thing, where you never stop learning how to communicate. So when an artist who legitimately wants to communicate themselves is being hindered by what's marketable, what's hot, what's not, what the formula is, not really able to communicate, I believe that it creates a stagnancy almost, that at some point is going to need to be released. No matter what, take music out of it. If we are not being our true authentic selves, we're going to experience a burnout, because our soul, I believe, it's not even really a spiritual thing. It's kind of obvious. You can see it in the faces of people that when we're not doing something that enlivens us and feels like us, our soul is going to continue searching for that one way to just really bare itself. And that's one of the things that music is always, the only reason I have these beliefs is because music was so therapeutic to me in my life, in every stage of my life. Being able to just for myself, sit and play and communicate whatever it was that was coming up was like writing in a journal for me. And I believe that it's very similar for most musicians that start. A very small percentage of musicians start by thinking man, I'm going to pick this guitar up, I'm going to write some songs, and one day I'm going to sell my soul to the labels. Sometimes that's a goal, and then honestly, if it is, it's just a very entrepreneurial business move. I have nothing but kudos to that. But a lot of the real art that comes out of music is meant to be shared, and the more that we suppress it, I think that it has. I don't think it benefits. So I mean, really, it's just the wellness aspect of allowing artists to be authentic, to be real, to be themselves. And I won't name any names, but I study a lot of the celebrities of today and everything. And there are a few of them that I can see them when they were young, when they were sitting in their kitchen. And this is my own vision of sitting in my kitchen at 13 years old, just playing that piano just because I loved it and singing it. And my parents kind of sticking their head around the corner and being like, he's actually pretty good. Shit, we got a musician in our hands. But I picture some of these celebrities that I'm like, you used to be that one day. And the music that they're creating, I'm not one to judge it, but if there's any chance that that's not authentically them, I believe that at some point they're going to be hungry for that communication again, for that ability just to sit down and really love what they're doing and not feel like they've got suits in their ear, or kind of a quota of music that they need to finish, or a way that they need to write, or a style that they need to write to be able to really authentically create art again.
I think that's just a huge challenge and fear maybe for anybody who loves to create, to think about what would happen to that process if it became something that they had to make money with. Because then all of a sudden it's a whole different game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And who knows what the answer to that one is, right? Unless it's something you can kind of keep on the side and just do it because you love it the way you want. But it's got to be the pressure, especially if you become even moderately successful,
And I think it depends on what you're going for.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a monetary formula to how to be successful from a monetized standpoint with this current formula. But it's really often unrecognized that some of the most successful people, continually the most successful people, are ones that kind of completely changed the game. Completely changed this paradigm of what is successful,
or what the consumer will buy. Like you brought
they're not
up
pretending to be anybody. They're them.
Like you brought up Bob Dylan before. I'm sure that was a hard sell. Neil Young, Geddy Lee, another Canadian. But there's something that's unique and is authentic about it, right? That I think really captures. Like Tom Waits is somebody I like a lot,
Totally.
And it's like for a lot of people, you either love him or you hate him. Yeah. But to me, that kind of thing, it just speaks to me because I see somebody's doing something because that's who they are instead of what they think they're supposed to do. Yeah. So how does somebody, when they're in that difficult situation of either I have made it and I need to maintain it or I'm trying to make it, what kind of self-care, how do you counsel artists in terms of maintaining that integrity and that wholeness?
I mean, it has a lot to do with even a subject we were just talking about, like kind of the influences that you're taking in, who you're surrounding yourself with. These are kind of just common rules for I think for success in any area is, emulate somebody that you see as successful. But from a wellness standpoint, it's like, what do you see as successful? Mm-hmm. Success can bring wellness, depending on your definition of what success is. And, I would even argue that, a good definition of success is an ever-changing definition of what success is, right? Because the world and we grow and the world changes and the markets and industries change. But committing yourself to something authentic about yourself and setting in a routine of working towards that. Because just being authentic to yourself it's not going to get you super far unless that's really all you're looking for. If you want to be successful in an industry or really get your music or your art, your message out there, there is still a level of tenacity and work that needs to come with it. Mm-hmm. And I believe that there's a wellness factor there as well, to really be able to work and see something happen, something change in your life that you never really thought maybe you did think was possible. But it's like climbing a mountain,
achieving
that, standing on that summit. There's no way to explain that feeling. And we often move into areas of uncomfortability when there's things transitioning or when there's a growth period that needs to happen for that success to come in.
Yeah.
And often, I'd say 80% of us turn right around when it gets uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. This is safe, that's going to like lose me money, or that's going to be a big move, or that's, whatever that feeling of uncomfortability is. But having a real visualization for what you're calling in for your life, in your art, in your music, and then showing up in your highest, and this is where the wellness part comes in, is being able to show up for that mission, for that goal, in your highest self. And if that's, being committed to fitness or committed to a certain diet, that a certain type of eating or a way of being, in your nutrition, spiritually, mentally, reading, whatever it is that keeps you fully enlivened and fully in your highest, I think that just opens up all of our channels to be able to be successful really in any area. The one added part for a musician is play that thing every single day. Mm-hmm. Whether you just sing every day. If you play guitar, if you play piano, find, carve out some time for you to set into that practice every single day. Even if it's just 15 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm not feeling it today. It's about the routine that you're setting in. And I think wellness comes down to consistency.
Yeah. I think when you were talking about like achieving goals too, something that's really helpful is to have a variety of types of goals,
Mm-hmm.
some that are much more readily achievable because those little successes build,
Yeah.
and you get that, I can do this. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's so much we can get lost in, and the stress. You mentioned you guys do sometimes producing meditation tracks. You know, mindfulness stuff is like so important, I think, for really everybody.
Absolutely.
But especially if you're in something with a lot of stress or anxiety, for just learning how to manage that and bring that under control.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I'm sure anybody that sits down in meditation experiences, those days when you just can't turn it off. You can't turn your mind off, and it's so hard to just keep your eyes closed because your mind's telling you to make that call, like, oh, you got to make that email or whatever. That in itself is what you're trying to break out of.
Yeah.
And the awareness, just having that awareness of what it is, those stories that you're telling yourself, especially for artists. What are the fears that are actually showing up here? Outside of your ego, what are the fears that are really showing up here that are holding you back from achieving what you want to achieve? I mean, any goal is achievable. Any goal is achievable. If you set that goal at a 5-year, this is where I want to be in 5 years. Well, it's achievable in breaking it down to what is something I'm doing every single day towards that goal. It doesn't have to be a huge milestone, but consistent steps towards that. I believe anything is really achievable. And we have our breakdowns where we just don't believe, for a day, that's, this cloud comes in and we're like, I'm never going to make it to that summit. And if you're in a routine of just continuing to take one step forward, you will make it there. So it's just the awareness of what those fears are, what those stories we tell us about our own value, our own worthiness, our own ability. And just remember that anybody who's done it before was just a human being. Just a human being, the same organs, the same extremities, the same fears, the same political climate, depending, as we do. There's just that one little click of a difference, which I believe is commitment and tenacity to a worthy goal.
Yeah, and being ready when the opportunity arises.
Yeah, there's a little bit of luck thrown in sometimes, I guess, as some would believe, but I would even retract that statement. I don't know that I believe in luck. I believe in consistency and commitment to a worthy goal.
Yeah. Well, and whatever somebody is working towards, those are valuable, whether you're an artist or not. Just having a clear vision and thinking daily about, is what I'm doing taking me in that direction, or is it taking me away from it?
Yeah.
And then just working on those little steps.
Yeah. A lot of the work that I've done around even coaching music, teaching music, the most transformational experiences that I've witnessed in that really have nothing to do with the music. They have almost everything to do with somebody learning something that they never thought they were going to be capable of doing.
Oh, yeah.
I've had, students sit down with me that are like, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm just doing this as a hobby. And a year later, they're strumming and playing and singing Neil Young. And the effect that has on them is so much more than just the guitar in their hand. No matter what age you are at, you just taught yourself to do something you legitimately were telling yourself a year ago you would never be able to do.
Yeah. What
does that mean for the rest of that outlook? So my vision on music and wellness and how that applies to artistry is not just designated to artistry. I think it has a lot to do with just us as human beings. What are we allowing ourselves to believe? What are the stories that we're telling ourselves? And how are they holding us back from really what we want to experience during our time on this planet? That can be short, can be long, can be whatever, but what do we want to experience, and are we living that in some way every single day? And it's just crazy how I've seen it expand, not just in my own life, but in other people's life when you're really focused on something.
Yeah. And I think, too, going back to earlier, you were talking about having an optimistic view about things and how things are progressing. You also mentioned earlier about music being able to kind of bring about this ability to imagine things differently. You know, I bring this up a lot, how important that is for change to happen, for us to be able to perceive it, or to experience something vicariously through somebody else's perspective, is the thing that opens up the door for change. And there is so much that has been going on that is tremendous. But of course, fear sells. And so we get a lot of that. And the more we can actually pay attention to what is going on and what is going right, then we're going to be in a better position to work from our strengths towards, we do have real challenges. They're not fake in terms of the issues at hand. Yep. But how much better are we going to address them if we're coming from, look at where we've come from, look at what we've done, as opposed to, it's helpless.
Yeah, I would just encourage anybody just to be very conscious of the art that they buy into. I mean, art is commercials. There's an artistic side to that person that designed that funny commercial or that car commercial or something like that. Everything revolves, the messages that we get very much revolve around artwork in some way. The billboards have had some type of artist put those billboards together. Movies that we're watching, shows that we're watching on TV. Being really aware of those, because I'm not much of a conspiracy guy. I just focus on music. But there is such an obvious reason why some issues are not being touched upon. Some of the things that are happening on this planet, you're not going to hear on Top 40 radio. You're not going to hear the times are changing. You're not going to hear Bob singing, the new Bob Dylan singing that new song for our generation. And you just can't help but notice that there's a reason why this stuff isn't to the forefront, but it doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
There's a lot of music. There's a lot of artists telling stories of real things happening today, things happening in the past that need to be talked about.
Yeah.
These things exist, and it depends on your source. And man, there's a lot of effort being put into making sure that those sources of truth and authenticity and art are few and far between, and that they're as quiet as possible. And if you continue to buy into the Pepsi and Coke of the industry, these major corporations that are telling you what you should be listening to, what you should be watching to, and everything, you're just going to miss it. You're going to be too distracted to latch on, when that little piece of truth flings by you because you're too focused on the Kardashians or something like that. There's a lot of distraction going around, and I would even argue that a lot of this stuff in our political climate serves as a huge distraction for what might really be going on, what might be important for us to be focusing on, which I think is just an up-leveling of our consciousness as a culture, as a human race. We are starting to realize that some of these things just aren't working. Yeah. And that some of these things don't feel good. Yeah. Whether they're told that they make sense or that's what's on the news right now, they don't feel good. There's got to be a different way. So as we start collectively kind of noticing that, I think the entire climate of industry changes, and art and music not only are going to be a part of that, they might have a lot to do with that major shift. As people,
I think they lead it.
Definitely. Yeah. Conscious consumerism. If you're worried about that kid making that Nike shoe in that sweatshop somewhere, you can be worried about so many different things, and it's really like, where do you find this pool of artistry? Whether it's in movies or visual art or dance or music, where can you really find stuff that's emulating that same intention to see people well and see people happy and see us all as one? Because it's not necessarily being placed on the radio. It's not necessarily being placed in major studios, major films, movies, that sort of thing. So we have to make a conscious choice to kind of look outside the box. I personally just don't watch television. Yeah. I can't do it. Yeah. I try sometimes. I just can't do it.
We haven't had what our kids call channel TV for many years. I mean, I think we turned it off when Roman was 13 and he's just about turned 19. So it's been a while. But yeah, there's being intentional about and aware, present really just thinking about what am I being exposed to? Because I think, again, like we've said before, time and place for different emotions and experiences and that kind of thing. It's not all just one thing. But we don't want to be unconsciously just bringing in stuff that's going to shape us and form us in negative, depressing, angry, oppressive ways. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't ever stand to tell somebody how to do anything, or how to live their life, or how to raise their children, or anything like that. But when it comes to screens, when it comes to the amount of time that we're spending in front of screens, and the amount of time that you see children on screens and iPhones, and it's one thing to be very, very conscious of, because there's a distraction element. I love seeing families starting to really encourage their kids to go outside and play again. Pick up a hockey stick and go play some street hockey. I guess
Canadian.
And that's a little different down here. But pick up a basketball, go throw a baseball around. Go for a skate. Yeah. That for me was just one of the integral parts of growing up, was being outside in nature and learning from stuff out there. And so that's one of those little concerns for me is, how fast does that one rise and fall? How fast do we figure out the screen time thing is not necessarily part of our well-being, and very much a distraction to anything else that we could be doing with our lives. I love watching a Netflix film every once in a while, but what are you putting your focus into?
Yeah. Well, it's like with so many things, finding that balance. So, yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah. Well, wow. What a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Would you like to send us out with another song?
Yeah. I'll do one that I know you like.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one's kind of all about, I wrote it in the forest in Canada. It's very much about feeling just kind of out of place and not necessarily from this planet. It's one of my favorites for sure. It's called Spaceship.
Right on.
Came here on a spaceship, a prodigal from Mars. Is anybody out there? I'll be on the stars. I came here on a spaceship, and I don't know where I am, but I know I don't belong here. Is anyone out there watching or listening from above? Humans justified it with love, but is anybody out there? Is anyone out there searching for a quick and painless life, free from all this heartache and strife? But is any of it working? Tell me that I ran all night and day, and that it's not that far away. Does anyone look to the mountains? Does anybody stare in hopes that you may find somebody there? Does anybody found them? I came here on a spaceship, prodigal from Mars. Is anybody out there? I'll be on the stars. I came here on a spaceship, and I don't know where I am, but I know I don't belong here. Is anyone out there watching, waiting for a sign, praying in hopes you'll fall in line, but we walk on? Is everyone out there staring at a sunset low, afraid like frost on the front window, but we walk on, on. You tell me that I ran all night wanna go from Mars. Is anybody out there? I'll be on the stars. I came here on a spaceship, and I don't know where I am, but I know I don't belong here.
Again, Angus, so fun. Really love it. And again, thank you for coming on the show. I'm hoping we'll be able to have you back again sometime.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite things about the show is getting to know more about my friends and learn more about what's going on in their lives and what they're up to, and it's just been quite a treat.
Yeah, well, I've loved watching the lineup and kind of some of these amazing thought leaders and artists and everything that you're bringing into this space and opening up these conversations. So just know it's very highly appreciated as well, and just wish you the best, and I'd love to be back at any time.
Hey, appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right. Be well.